She woke from a years-long coma, and fell for the young doctor who never stopped believing in her. The beeping of machines was the only thing that broke the sterile silence. Dr. Adrian Wells paused mid-step when he noticed something, a flutter in her eyelids. It wasn't the first time he had imagined it, but this time it was different. Celeste Marlowe, once a titan of philanthropy known for her unrelenting drive and icy demeanor, was waking up. After 3 long years in a coma, she was finally stirring. Nurses rushed in, disbelief etched on their faces while Adrian stood frozen, emotions warring beneath his calm exterior. He had kept vigil beside her, even when the board demanded they pull the plug. "She's not just a case," he'd insisted. "She's someone." As her fingers twitched slightly and her lips parted to take her first conscious breath in years, Adrian leaned close. "Celeste," he whispered, voice trembling, "if you can hear me, you're not alone." The room felt foreign, like a hotel she'd never booked. Celeste blinked at her reflection in the small mirror across the room. The woman staring back was unfamiliar. Pale skin, sunken cheeks, once lustrous black hair turned brittle and streaked with gray. She tried to speak, but her throat burned from years of silence. Adrian entered, carrying a journal, his journal. "You've been asleep a while," he said gently. "But I've been keeping notes, every twitch, every tear, every time your hand moved." Her memories were foggy, fractured shards of a life she didn't fully recall. What had she done before the coma? Who had she become? And why did this man, this stranger, seem to know her soul better than she did? In the months following her awakening, Celeste's days were filled with grueling therapy and hazy recollections. But it wasn't long before the memories began returning. News conferences, op-eds, speeches delivered with fire. She'd been a commanding force, her name synonymous with prestige and controversy. Now she couldn't lift a spoon without assistance. Once she ruled charity boards with an iron grip. Now she was a patient needing help to stand. The collapse of her identity loomed large, suffocating. And yet Adrian's calm presence remained a strange balm. He treated her not like a former celebrity, but like a human being. That, more than anything, unsettled her. She finally asked the question burning in her throat. "Why did you stay?" Adrian paused, then looked into her eyes. Because no one else did. He'd seen too many cases where patients were abandoned by family, friends, institutions. Something about Celeste had stirred him, though. Not her fame, not her past, but a spark of something unresolved. "I didn't know you," he said, "but I wanted you to have a chance to be known." In that sterile hospital room, surrounded by quiet machines, Celeste felt something she hadn't in years: gratitude. One night, as Adrian adjusted her IV drip, a faint piano melody played on the old radio in the corner. Celeste froze. The tune, Nocturne in E-flat major, was one she remembered playing with her mother. A sob escaped before she could stop it. The floodgates opened. Flashes of her childhood, her ambitions, the pressure to succeed, the solitude of success. Adrian noted the shift instantly. The next day he returned with a Bluetooth speaker and a playlist of classical pieces. Music therapy, they called it. But for Celeste it was resurrection. During her absence, her foundation had changed hands. Buried in old files, Adrian found unsent letters addressed to Celeste's late father, pleas for validation, regrets, guilt. He read them aloud, unsure if she could bear it, but she asked for more. As the days passed, she began writing again. Letters to the person she used to be, the people she'd wronged, the ones she'd neglected. Her pen shook, but her words didn't. Healing had begun. Her half-sister, Mara Eldon, visited one crisp morning. The reunion was less heartwarming, more cold confrontation. "You finally woke up," Mara said, her voice heavy with resentment. "The world moved on without you." Their history was marred by rivalry, public arguments, and a brutal inheritance battle. But under Mara's bitterness was pain, the need for recognition. Celeste didn't argue this time. She simply said, "I'm sorry, it wasn't enough, but it was a start." News of her awakening hit the media like wildfire. Former allies, rivals, and reporters descended, seeking interviews and confessions. Celeste refused them all. "I don't owe anyone an explanation," she told Adrian, "except myself." Her former assistant visited with shocking updates: misused funds, abandoned projects, exploited partners. Celeste was forced to reckon with her past not as a legend, but as a flawed human. She wept that night, not just for what she lost, but for what she had inflicted. For a time, Celeste disappeared from public discourse. Rumors abounded, that she was mentally broken, that she'd lost her fortune, that she was living in a monastery. She let the world speak while she relearned how to walk, how to eat without shaking, how to feel without guilt. Adrian stood by, never pressing, always ready, and in her silence Celeste discovered a rare thing: peace. One night Celeste posed a question: "What happens to coma patients without anyone like you?" Adrian hesitated. "Many don't make it. Loneliness is a disease too, that answer haunted her. By dawn she had a plan. With trembling hands she began sketching a nonprofit, an organization dedicated to providing companionship and presence for long-term patients. Not charity, compassion. It won't erase the past, she said, but it can redefine my legacy. Celeste's new nonprofit, Haven Pulse, was born quietly. No media fanfare, no red carpet launch. Just a few volunteers, a few hospital partnerships, and a mission carved from lived pain. She insisted on no names on buildings, no statues in her honor. This isn't about me anymore, she told Adrian. Every week she visited hospitals herself, some days in a wheelchair, some walking slowly with a cane. Patients who couldn't speak found solace in her presence. Families who had almost given up took courage from her story. And all the while Adrian worked alongside her, acting as both medical advisor and emotional anchor. The foundation wasn't perfect, but it was real. For the first time in her life, Celeste was creating something not to be remembered, but to be meaningful. Celeste's physical therapy had reached a new milestone. She could walk 50 steps unaided. The staff at the clinic applauded quietly. She simply sat down and cried. Recovery wasn't a straight line. There were relapses, days she couldn't get out of bed, and nights filled with vivid nightmares. Of collapsing on stage, of being buried in silence. Adrian never minimized her suffering. He sat through it, gently reminding her that healing wasn't only muscle and bone, it was mind and spirit. One evening she confessed something that made him pause. I used to think weakness was the enemy. Now I think my strength was the real prison. That night she slept without nightmares for the first time in months. The lines between doctor and patient had long blurred. Over time, Celeste and Adrian's conversations shifted, less clinical, more personal. He told her about his childhood in foster care, about losing his mother young, about choosing medicine to feel in control of life's unpredictability. She shared her fear of intimacy, of vulnerability, of being truly known. Their bond deepened, not through grand declarations but quiet rituals, tea after sessions, walks in the garden, shared silence. One day, as they sat by the hospital's koi pond, Celeste reached out and held his hand. You've held me through darkness, she said softly. May I hold you through the light? He didn't answer with words. He just squeezed her hand back. The hospital board that once sought to remove Adrian from Celeste's case finally summoned him. You defied protocol. You defied our authority, one of the senior members said sternly. Adrian didn't flinch. And I gave her back her life. To their surprise, Celeste arrived unannounced, walking in unassisted, her presence commanding yet calm. You almost condemned me to death, she said bluntly. But he gave me dignity. Her words didn't just sway the board, they sparked internal discussions about long-term patient care, emotional investment, and ethics. Adrian's record was cleared. And Celeste, she gained something she never expected, respect rooted not in fear but in truth. Mara returned, this time uninvited but not unwelcome. You've changed, she admitted, standing awkwardly by Celeste's balcony. So have you, Celeste replied. They sat together silent for a while. Then Mara spoke, not with bitterness but sorrow. I spent years hating you for the shadows you cast. I wanted the spotlight so badly, I never saw what it cost you. Celeste nodded, tears in her eyes. I wanted love, but I settled for control. In that moment, old wounds began to scar over. They didn't become best friends overnight, but they agreed on something new. The future would not be written by resentment but by forgiveness. The invitation came from an international medical symposium, an annual event Celeste once headlined as a keynote speaker for philanthropic medicine. At first she declined. I'm not the woman they remember, she said to Adrian. But he gently countered, that's exactly why you need to go. With trembling hands and a heart pounding in her chest, Celeste stepped onto the stage 3 months later. There was no designer gown, no dramatic entrance, no media storm. Just her, a simple black dress, a cane in one hand, and years of raw truth in the other. I built empires on my name, she began, but I nearly died alone. Today I speak not as the woman you once knew, but as the one I've become. She didn't ask for applause. She offered vulnerability, and when she finished, the audience rose, not because she was powerful, but because she was real. In the heart of Haven Pulse's first community center, a small garden had been planted. In it stood a wall, not of division, but of remembrance. Each brick bore the name of a patient who had once been in long-term care without family. Some had recovered, some hadn't, but all were honored. Celeste often walked there alone, tracing the etched letters with reverent fingers. One day, Adrian found her staring at a name recently added. Isla Marlowe, her mother. She died while I was in the coma, Celeste whispered. No one told me. Adrian wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She waited for you every day until her own body gave out. In that quiet garden, Celeste finally mourned and began to heal another layer of her broken heart. As Haven Pulse expanded, stories poured in, volunteers who stayed by patients' sides during surgery, children who played music for unconscious parents, families who rediscovered hope. The foundation was no longer Celeste's alone. It belonged to every voice that once cried in isolation. The media eventually caught up, running headlines like, "From Powerhouse to Protector, the rise of Celeste Marlowe 2.0, but she declined all interviews. The work speaks louder than I ever could. Meanwhile, Adrian continued his research on music therapy, using Celeste's awakening as a case study. Together, they wrote an academic paper that gained international attention, changing how hospitals approached coma care worldwide. One evening, as the city lights flickered through the hospital window, Adrian brought her a box wrapped in old sheet music. Inside was a necklace with a single pearl and a note. "For every silent day you endured and every brave word you now speak." Celeste laughed through her tears. "Is this your way of saying you love me?" Adrian took her hands, now steady and strong. "I've loved you through silence, through doubt, through every breath you fought to take." And finally, Celeste said what she had only felt until then. "Then let me love you forward, through every day we're given." They didn't need grand vows, just truth, spoken quietly after years of waiting. A year later, the annual Haven Pulse Gala opened to a sold-out crowd, not of celebrities or dignitaries, but of patients, caregivers, and families. Celeste stood backstage, cane-free, heart full. Mara was there, smiling. Volunteers wore pins that read, "Presence is power." Adrian was by her side, hand in hers. As she stepped onto the stage to welcome everyone, there was no nervousness, only peace. "If you remember nothing else tonight," she said, "remember this, being there for someone. Truly being there is a legacy that echoes beyond time." The crowd erupted in applause, not just for her words, but for everything she had become. As the lights dimmed and music filled the hall, Celeste looked at Adrian and whispered, "This is the life I never knew I needed." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of healing, redemption, and the strength of human connection.